The great silver doors of the throne room opened with a long, cold sound. The guards stepped in first, followed by a human prisoner. His hands were bound in front of him with glowing blue cuffs. He wore a simple gray suit, torn at the shoulder. Dust clung to his hair, but his eyes were steady as he walked forward. He did not look afraid. Queen Varela sat tall on her throne, her long dark robe falling across the polished black steps. The hall was quiet, filled only with the echo of the humans' footsteps above them. The golden ceiling reflected the flicker of pale flames burning in crystal lamps. The alien nobles stood to the side, whispering among themselves. Many of them had never seen a human up close. The queen's gaze narrowed as she looked at him. He was not large. He had no weapons, no armor. But there was something strange about his face. It wasn't fear or anger. It was calm. To calm for someone standing in the most dangerous place in the empire. State your name. Queen Varela said, her voice sharp and clear. The man stopped a few feet from the throne. He looked directly into her eyes. My name is Neil. There was a pause. The nobles gasped softly. The guards stepped closer, ready to strike if he showed disrespect. But Queen Varela raised her hand. You do not bow, she asked Neil's. Voice remained steady. I was taught to stand when speaking to someone with strength. Varela tilted her head slightly. She had ruled for 20 years. She had seen enemies beg, scream, and lie, but she had never seen a human speak to her. Like this, you were found on an illegal mining post on the edge of Emperor space, she said. Humans are not allowed in that sector. You knew this. I did, Neil replied. I wasn't mining. I was trying to help some workers escape. They were trapped during a blast. One of the nobles shouted, Lies. He was stealing our energy crystals. The queen raised her hand again, and silence returned. You say you were helping others, she said. Neil nodded. Yes. The queen stared at him. His skin was marked with dust and small burns. His hands were rough. Yet, there was something calm about the way he stood, like he had accepted anything that might happen. Queen Varela stood from her throne and slowly walked down the steps. Her long robe whispered behind her. She came to a stop only a few feet. From Neil. He did not step back. You look at me without fear, she said. Why? Neil answered simply. Because I don't see a monster. I see a leader. Varela's chest tightened, but her face did not change. No one had ever said such a thing to her before. Not in that tone. Not with eyes that held no trick or flattery. Do you think your words will save you? She asked. No, he said. But they are true. The nobles began whispering again, louder now. Some were angry. Others were curious. The guards looked at the queen, unsure of what she would do. Varela looked at Neil for a long time. Her heart beat strangely. She did not like it. It felt soft, unclear. She had trained for decades to feel nothing during judgment, but this human had somehow made her forget that. Take him to the research hall, she said at last. Let the science team study him. His behavior is unusual. Neil did not protest. Two guards came to lead him away. As he turned to walk, he looked back once. His eyes met hers again, not with fear, not with hatred, but with something else, curiosity, respect, and something that made her heart beat just a little faster. When the door closed behind him, Queen Varela returned to her throne. Her fingers tapped the armrest slowly. The nobles spoke among themselves, their voices rising. Some said he should be executed. Others said he was harmless. Some laughed that she was even wasting her time. But the queen stayed silent. In the quiet of her mind, she asked herself a strange question, one she had never thought before. Why do I feel like I've just met someone important? She shook the thought away and ordered the room cleared. As the nobles and guards left, she walked toward the side chamber where the surveillance screen showed every corner of her palace. She looked at the live feed of the research hall. Neil sat on a bench, hands still cuffed. He looked around, but not with fear. Instead, he watched the room like he was trying to understand it. Queen Varela leaned forward and watched him carefully. She didn't know why, but she wanted to know what he was thinking. And for the first time in many years, the Empress of the Stars felt something new inside her. Something warm, something unknown, something dangerous. The research hall was silent except for the soft hum of machines. Strange glowing tools floated in the air, scanning Neil from every angle. He sat still on the cold silver bench, his hands still locked in glowing cuffs. Bright light shone down on him from above, but he didn't blink. He looked calm, almost peaceful. Alien scientists in long blue robes moved around him. They whispered to each other, confused by the results. One examined his brain scan. Another tested his blood. A third tried to measure his emotional state. He shows no fear, one said, tapping his screen. No aggression either, said another. Perhaps the machine is broken? It worked on every other subject. Queen Varela watched the entire process from her private viewing room. She sat alone, eyes fixed on the screen in front of her. Neil's face showed no fear, no pride, no trick. He only looked around with calm curiosity. The door behind her opened quietly. Her advisor, High Minister Rowland, stepped in. He was tall, with gray skin and sharp black eyes. Why are you wasting time on this human? Rowland asked. He is not important. Varela did not turn her head. He is different. Rowland frowned. Different how? His people are weak. Their minds break under pressure. They either beg or lie. But this one stares at you like you are just another being. That is dangerous. The queen remained silent for a moment. Then she said, It is not danger I see in his eyes. Rowland stiffened. My queen, I must advise caution. The nobles already whisper that you are distracted. They say you look at him too long. Varela finally turned. Let them whisper. Rowland bowed, though his face was tight with worry. Then he left the room. Back in the research hall, Neil was finally allowed to speak. Why are you doing all this? He asked calmly. The head scientist stepped forward. Her voice was flat. You show strange behavior. No fear. No anger. We must understand it. Neil nodded slowly. You're trying to figure out if I'm a threat. She paused. Yes. Neil gave a small smile. I'm not here to fight you. Then what are you here for? She asked. I told the queen. The truth. I tried to help trap workers. That's all. Why would you risk your life for others who are not your kind? Neil looked at her without blinking. Because that's what I believe in. The scientist stepped back, unsure how to respond. The doors opened. Two guards stepped inside and walked straight to Neil. The queen has called for you. One of them said. Neil stood without complaint. The guards unlocked his cuffs and led him out of the hall. He was brought once again to the grand throne room. But this time, it was empty. No nobles, no crowd, just Queen Varela, standing near the tall windows that looked out over the Silver City. She turned when she heard his footsteps. You? Speak clearly, she said. Even when others would stay silent, Neil stopped a few steps away from her. You asked for me? Yes, she replied. I want to understand you. Neil tilted his head. Why? Because you confuse me. He smiled faintly. Not. Many people admit that. She raised one brow. Do you enjoy making powerful people uncomfortable? I don't try to. I just speak the truth. She walked closer, her long robe sliding across the floor. She looked up at him, eyes sharp. You keep looking at me like you see something others don't. Why? Neil paused. Then he answered. Because I do. She felt her chest tighten slightly. He continued. You carry a heavy weight. I see it in your eyes. You speak with strength. But deep down, you're tired and maybe lonely. Her hand twitched, just slightly. He added. You've been a queen for so long that you've forgotten how to be anything else. Silence filled the room. Varela looked away for a moment, then back at him. You speak boldly. You don't scare me, he said. You impress me. The words struck her harder than she expected. No flattery, no fear, just honesty. She could tell it wasn't a trick, and for some reason, that made her feel warm. She turned and walked toward the throne but did not sit. The nobles want you gone. Some say I should have executed you already. Why didn't you? Neil asked. She looked back at him. Because I want to know what it is in your eyes that makes my heart beat faster. Neil smiled. Gently, maybe. You're starting to see yourself through different eyes. Queen Varela said nothing. Her thoughts were a storm. She waved her hand toward the side hall. You will not be imprisoned. You will stay under guard, but as a guest, for now. Neil gave a small nod. Thank you. She watched him for a moment longer. Then she said softly, You are unlike any human I've met, and you're not what I expected either. Neil replied. As the guards escorted him away. Varela sat on her throne at last, but she didn't feel like a queen in that moment. She felt like something else. Something closer to human. She touched her chest, feeling her heart beat stronger than before. And she wondered again why one human gaze could shake her so deeply. The sky above the Emperor capital turned a deep violet as the twin moons rose. The city's towers glowed with silver light, casting reflections across the still waters of the palace lake. Inside the royal chambers, Queen Varela sat alone. Her long black cloak was draped over her shoulders, but her crown rested on a nearby table. Tonight, she wasn't thinking like a queen. She was thinking like a woman with too many questions. Her thoughts kept returning to Neil. She remembered the calm way he had looked at her, the words he had said without fear or flattery. He spoke to her like she was more than a ruler, like he saw someone real, someone she hadn't been in a long time. A soft knock broke the silence. Enter. She said. High Minister Round stepped in, followed by two generals. All three wore dark armor, their faces serious. My queen, Round said, bowing slightly. We have news from the border systems. General Circa, a tall warrior with scars across her cheek, stepped forward. Rebel fleets have begun to gather near the Selvan sector. They move quickly and with purpose. Varela stood slowly. Who leads them? A former Emperor captain named Doran, Round replied. He claims the Empress has grown weak. That your interest in the human is proof of it. The queen's eyes narrowed. He dares question me? General Circa nodded. Others listen. Your nobles whisper. They say you delay action, hesitate to punish. Some even claim the human controls you. Varela's voice turned cold. Fools, a single human does not shake the throne. Round added carefully. Then perhaps it is time to remove him. She turned to face him fully. You speak of Neil. Yes, my queen. While he lives, the court will doubt you. Remove him, and your strength will be clear again. Varela stayed quiet for a long moment. Her heart beat slowly, but with pressure. She was used to tough decisions. She had once ordered the destruction of an entire rebel fleet without blinking. But this was different. Finally, she said, Leave me. Round bowed, though his expression showed clear disapproval. The generals followed him out. Varela walked to the window. Below, the garden lights shimmered in the night. Somewhere in the east wing, Neil was under guard, staying in the guest chambers. He would not know about the rebellion. Not yet. She clenched her hand tightly. Was she becoming weak? Or was she finally waking up? The next day, Queen Varela invited Neil to join her for the midday meal in the royal garden. It was a quiet place, with trees shaped like silver feathers and flowers that hummed softly when touched by the sun. A small round table was placed beneath a glowing tree. The table was set for two. Neil arrived without chains, though two guards followed behind him at a distance. He looked at the table, then at the queen. You usually eat with nobles? He asked. Not often, she said. I prefer silence. Neil sat across from her. The food was unlike anything from Earth's small glowing fruits, floating cups of clear soup, and thin slices of meat that steamed lightly without fire. It's peaceful here, Neil said. Looking round. I come here to think, Varela replied. He nodded. You're thinking about the rebels, aren't you? She looked at him sharply. How do you know about that? Neil gave a small smile. I don't, but your eyes look tired. And your guards walk differently today. Tense. Varela was silent. Neil continued. I don't mean to cause you trouble. If I'm the reason people are rebelling, you are not, she said quickly. They rebel because they are afraid of change. You are simply their excuse. Neil looked at her carefully. And you? Are you afraid of change? Varela met his eyes, and for a moment, her usual shield dropped. I don't know, she admitted. That quiet answer surprised him. For a queen known across the stars, It was rare to hear such honesty. "I've spent my life being strong," she said, "winning wars, crushing threats, never doubting. But now, I doubt everything." Neil picked up a small fruit and rolled it in his fingers. "That's not weakness, that's growth." She studied him. "You believe that?" "Yes," he replied. "Real strength is knowing when to stop and listen." Varela looked away toward the shining leaves of the tree. The wind was soft today, carrying the scent of the garden's flowers. It should have been a peaceful moment, but inside, her heart felt heavy. "I'm being told to remove you," she said without looking at him. Neil didn't flinch. "I guess that might happen." "You are not a threat," she said. "But others see you as one." "Because I don't fear you?" "No. Because I make the mistake of looking at you like you matter." Neil sat in silence for a few seconds, then said, "Maybe that's not a mistake." Varela stood and walked toward the small pond nearby. She looked down at her reflection. The water rippled gently. "I used to believe I would die alone, cold, a ruler without equal, without connection. I thought that was strength." Neil walked to stand beside her. His voice was low. "What do you believe now?" She turned to him. Slowly, her eyes held confusion, but also warmth. "Now I'm not sure of anything, except that when you look at me, I feel something I haven't felt in years." They stood there in silence. No guards, no court, no crown. Just two souls beneath a glowing tree. A soft wind passed, and the petals floated across the pond. But far away, the threat of war was rising, and in the shadows of the palace, some already planned how to end the humans influenced by any means. The palace garden was quiet under the night sky. Stars stretched far above, blinking like soft lights in the darkness. The twin moons had risen, casting a calm glow over the trees and paths. Queen Varela stood near the edge of a stone bridge, looking up in silence. She had not called for guards. She had not brought her advisors. Tonight, she wanted peace. But more than that, she wanted to see Neil again. Behind her, she heard soft footsteps. She did not need to turn. She already knew who it was. "You came," she said. Neil stepped beside her. He wore the plain gray robe given to guests of the palace. His hands were free, and for once, no guards followed him. He looked up at the sky, then down at the still water below the bridge. "It's quiet here," he said. "I like the quiet," Varela replied. Neil looked at her. "Then why do you live in noise?" She turned her head, curious. "The palace is full of shouting voices," he explained. "Orders, warnings, demands. You walk through them like they don't touch you. But here, it's like you can finally breathe." Varela said nothing for a while. She stared at the moons, her expression softer than usual. "When I was younger," she said, "I used to come here to dream. Before I wore the crown, before I learned how to speak with steel, I would stare at the sky and wonder what was beyond the stars." "What did you want to find?" Neil asked. "Freedom," she said. He nodded. "Do you think you found it?" "No," she replied. "I found power, but not freedom." A light wind passed between them. Leaves rustled in the trees. The pond below the bridge rippled softly. "I used to dream too," Neil said, "but not of power, just of a place where people didn't have to be afraid all the time." "Earth is like that?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not always. We still fight. We still make mistakes. But some people try to build peace, not break it." Varela looked at him closely. "And you were one of them." "I tried to be," Neil answered. She stepped back from the edge of the bridge and motioned for him to follow. Together, they walked along a quiet path lined with glowing flowers. The path led to a small open space with a round bench made from smooth crystal. They sat side by side. "Tell me more about your world," she said. Neil smiled. "What do you want to know?" "Anything," she said. So he told her. He spoke of rain that fell gently across green hills, of warm sunlight after a storm, of children running across fields without fear. He told her about music, laughter, and simple joys like walking through a forest or sharing food with strangers. As he spoke, Varela listened quietly. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Not about kindness, not about life without war. She felt something stir deep in her chest, something soft, something she didn't know how to name. She looked at him as he spoke, and she realized her eyes were not watching his words, but his face. The way he smiled when he remembered his home, the calm in his voice, the warmth that never left his eyes. He finished talking and looked at her. "What are you thinking?" Varela blinked. "I'm wondering what you see when you look at me." "I see someone who's strong," Neil said, but tired of pretending she doesn't feel anything. Her breath caught for just a moment. "Is that a guess?" she asked. "No," he replied. "It's what your eyes say." She looked away quickly, her heart beating faster again. This man, this human, spoke to her as no one else dared. Not with fear, not with praise, just truth. And it touched a place inside her that had been silent for too long. Suddenly, she asked, "Do you ever feel alone, Neil?" He nodded slowly. "Often, even now." He hesitated. "Not when I'm with you." Varela turned to him, surprised. "Why?" "Because you listen," he said. The queen stood slowly, her robe catching the moonlight. "You speak like no one else I've known." "I'm just speaking to you like a person," Neil said. "Not like a queen, and that's what makes it so rare," she whispered. Just then, distant footsteps broke the moment. A guard appeared at the edge of the path and bowed. "My queen, urgent message from the outer fleets." Varela's face turned serious. "Speak." "Enemy ships have crossed into Selvon sector. They are moving fast. The nobles are gathering in the war chamber." Varela gave a slow nod. "I will come." The guard bowed again and left. Neil looked at her. "You have a hard choice ahead." She turned back to him. "Every choice is hard now. Then make the one your heart knows is right." She gave him a long look, then said, "Stay in the garden. This night is not over yet." He nodded. "I'll be here." As Varela walked away, her heart still beat fast, not from fear, not from war, but from something deeper, something she had almost forgotten, the feeling of being seen, not as a queen, but as a person. And beneath the stars, that feeling gave her strength. The war chamber was filled with sharp voices and flashing lights. A large circular screen showed enemy movements near the Selvon sector. Red marks blinked across the border, showing how close the rebel ships had come. The nobles stood around the table, arguing over plans and blaming one another. The sound of tension filled the air. Queen Varela stepped into the room, and silence followed her. Her black cloak moved like a shadow behind her as she walked to the center. She looked once at the screen, then turned her sharp gaze toward the gathered nobles and generals. "Speak," she said. General Circus stepped forward. "The rebels grow bolder. They claim the throne has weakened. Some say it's because of your delay in removing the human." Others muttered in agreement. One noble, tall and thin with silver markings on his face, took a step forward. "We must act now," he said. "You gave mercy to a stranger, and now our enemies take it as a sign of softness." Varela's eyes narrowed. "You think mercy is weakness? I think doubt is," he replied boldly. The queen's voice turned cold. "And what would you do, Lord Greve?" "I would end this rebellion quickly, and I would remove the one who started the whispers. The human must be eliminated tonight." The room fell quiet. Queen Varela looked at each face in the room. She saw fear. She saw hunger for power. And she saw no understanding of what truly mattered. None of them had seen what she had. None of them had looked into Neil's eyes and felt something more than fear or pride. "You forget something," she said calmly. "I am the crown. I decide who is a threat." Lord Greve's face twisted. "And when your emotions lead you into danger, who saves the empire?" "The empire is safe as long as I stand," she replied. "That will not change." But even as she said it, she knew the danger was growing, not just from outside, but inside the palace walls. Late that night, under the dim lights of the eastern corridor, a shadow moved between the columns. It was fast, quiet, and armed. The figure carried a silver blade, designed to be silent and deadly. It moved toward the guest chambers. Inside, Neil was sitting near the window, looking at the stars. He heard a soft sound, like breath passing through cloth. He stood and turned just as the door opened. A masked figure rushed in, blade in hand. "Neil." reacted fast. He grabbed a chair and blocked the first strike. The blade scraped across the wood, sending sparks. He kicked the table to the side, forcing space between them. The attacker struck again, but Neil ducked and rolled to the side, grabbing a small lamp and throwing it. It shattered near the attacker's feet, sending smoke and light. The noise brought guards running. The attacker rushed to escape through the window, but was caught by 2 guards outside. The mask was pulled off. It was a palace soldier, one loyal to Lord Grev. When Queen Varel arrived moments later, her face was pale with fury. She looked at the broken glass, the fallen lamp, and then at Neil, who stood with a shallow cut on his arm, but was still calm. "You were almost killed," she said. Voice shaking, Neil looked at her. "I knew someone would try. You should have told me," she said. "I didn't want to give them more reason to think I control you." Her jaw tightened. She stepped forward and looked at his wound. "It's nothing serious," Neil said, quietly. But Varela didn't step away. She stood close, too close for a queen. Her voice dropped. "I almost lost you." Neil met her eyes. "You don't have to stand alone anymore." That simple sentence struck her harder than any blade. She turned to the guards. "Bring Lord Grev to me, now, within the hour." Lord Grev stood in chains before her. His face was proud, but his eyes showed fear. "You sent a killer into my palace," she said. "You broke your oath. He was a threat to your rule." Grev spat. "I only did what was needed. You do not decide what is needed. I do." She raised her hand. "Exile him, strip him of all rank. Let him vanish into the cold lands." The nobles were shocked, but no one dared protest after the judgment. Varela returned to the garden, where Neil was being treated by a medic. His arm was bandaged. He stood up when he saw her. "Did you punish him?" "Yes," she said. Neil looked at her with quiet respect. "You didn't have to protect me like this." Varela stepped close. "But I wanted to, for a moment." Neither of them spoke. The wind moved gently through the garden. The flowers shifted in the moonlight. Neil finally asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Varela didn't answer at first. She just stared at him, her eyes full of something she didn't know how to name. Then she said softly, "Because you make me feel alive, and I don't know what to do with that." Neil reached out and gently took her hand. "You don't have to do anything," he said. "Just feel it." Varela didn't pull away. For the first time in years, the Queen of Empren didn't feel like a ruler. She felt human. But even as their hands touched, the stars above watched in silence, and the threat of war continued to grow. The royal meeting hall stood quiet as the sun rose over the palace towers. Golden light slipped through the crystal windows, casting long shadows across the black marble floor. Queen Varela sat alone at the head of the long table. Her crown rested beside her, untouched. She had not slept. She had spent the whole night thinking about Neil, about the failed attack, and about what was coming. The rebellion in the Selvan sector was growing stronger. Her commanders waited for orders. Her nobles waited to see if she would lead with strength or emotion. But Varela knew the truth. She could no longer separate her heart from her rule. The door opened quietly. High Minister Rowland entered, bowing slightly. "My queen, the council is waiting in the chamber. The generals have prepared for war." Varela nodded. "Send them in." Soon, the nobles and generals gathered around the long table. Their robes and armor shimmered in the morning light. All eyes turned to the queen. "We face a storm," General Circus said. "The rebel fleet has taken control of the border outposts. If we do not act now, they will push deeper. And what will the Empress decide?" A noble asked carefully. Varela stood. Her voice was clear. "We will fight. I will lead the command myself." The room murmured in surprise. "My queen." Rowland said, "You have not gone to the front in years." "Then it is time I return," she said. "I will not rule from behind stone walls while my people bleed." There was pride in some faces, fear in others, but none spoke against her. Varela turned to leave, but just before she reached the door, she paused. "And one more thing." She turned back toward them. "Neil will remain in the palace. He is not a prisoner. He is my guest. No one will touch him without my word." A few nobles shifted uncomfortably, but no one dared challenge her. When the chamber cleared, Varela walked quickly through the halls, her robe trailing behind her. She found Neil in the quiet part of the garden, standing near the same crystal bench they had shared days before. He turned when he heard her. "You're going to war," he said. "You heard." He nodded. "Everyone is talking." Varela stopped in front of him for a moment. She didn't speak. She just looked at him, searching his face, remembering every moment they had shared. "I'm leaving today," she said. "The battle cannot be avoided." "I know," Neil said quietly. "You're the queen. You have to protect your people." Varela stepped closer. "But I wanted to tell you something before I go." He waited. "You've changed me, Neil," she said. "Before you came here, I lived with silence in my heart. Cold decisions, empty victories. But when I looked into your eyes, I saw something else. I saw myself, not as a ruler, but as a woman." Neil didn't speak. His eyes held hers. "I was afraid of that feeling," she admitted. "Afraid it made me weak. But now I understand. It makes me strong." "You are strong," Neil said. "With or without me." Varela shook her head. "No, with you. I remember how to feel again. And that is the strength I need now." She reached into her robe and pulled out a small silver ring with the royal symbol engraved on it. She placed it in his hand. "Keep this. If anything happens to me, show it to the council. It carries my seal." Neil looked down at the ring, then back at her. "You think you might not return." "I don't know," she said honestly. "But if I fall, I want you to remember what you gave me." He closed his fingers around the ring. "I'll wait for you." She reached out and gently touched his cheek. "I never thought someone like you would walk into my life. But now that you're here, I never want you to leave it." "I'm not going anywhere," Neil said. "You gave me something too. A reason to believe in more than just survival." Varela leaned forward, close enough to hear his breath. "Say it again." "What?" "That you wait." "I'll wait for you," Neil said again, softer this time. And then she stepped back, her heart full and her mind cleared. By midday, the royal ship rose into the sky, leaving trails of blue fire behind it. Queen Varela stood at the front window of the command deck, her armor polished, her gaze sharp. She had chosen to fight not just for her empire, but for something more. She fought for hope. She fought for the right to feel. She fought for the man who had seen her, not as a throne, but as a person, back in the palace. Neil stood at the edge of the garden, watching the skies. The silver ring rested in his hand. He closed his eyes, feeling a quiet strength rise inside him. He didn't know what the days ahead would bring, but he knew this: the queen had changed. And so had he. Their hearts had found something in each other, something strong enough to shake a throne. And somewhere among the stars, that bond was being tested by fire. Days passed, then a week. Neil stood every morning by the garden wall, eyes on the sky. Each day the same, quiet, waiting. The royal palace felt colder without her. Even with the sun shining, the hall seemed dull. The staff moved carefully around him, always polite, but distant. He was a human, a guest, and someone the queen herself had protected. No one dared mistreat him. But they didn't treat him like one of their own either. Still, Neil waited. Every day, without fail. The silver ring she gave him never left his hand. Sometimes, late at night, he'd hold it close and remember her voice, her touch, her promise. On the 9th day, he woke before the sun. Something in the air had changed. A low hum echoed across the sky. When he reached the garden wall, he saw lights blinking in the distance. A ship, a royal ship. His heart raced. He ran toward the main courtyard just as the vessel descended. The guards were already forming lines. High Minister Round stood at the front, waiting with a serious look on his face. As the ramp lowered, Neil held his breath. Then she appeared. Queen Varela stepped down slowly, wearing the same dark armor, but it now bore scratches, dust, and burn marks. Her long dark hair was tied back, her crown missing, but her eyes were bright. Neil stepped forward, unsure if he should speak, unsure if it was real. She saw him immediately. Her pace quickened, and then she was in front of him. Alive. Double quotes. I kept my Promise, she said, her voice soft, and I kept mine, Neil replied. Neither of them said anything for a moment. Their eyes spoke for them. There were wounds on her arms, a slight limp in her walk, but the strength in her gaze had only grown. I thought I lost you, Neil said. You almost did. Varela said, the battle was harder than we expected. We lost 2 ships, many lives, but you won. She nodded. Barely. But yes, we held the border. You led them, Neil said. You brought them back. I didn't fight just for the Empire, she said. Her voice low. I fought for something stronger. For something I almost forgot I was allowed to feel. Neil looked at her and saw not just the queen, but the woman who once sat beside him in the garden, laughing at his strange earth jokes. You're not just a ruler to me, Neil said. You never were. Varela stepped closer. Then tell me what I am. He looked at her, his voice steady. You're someone I care about, someone who made me believe again. You gave me a reason to feel more than fear. You gave me a place. Varela took his hand in hers, and you gave me freedom from the cold weight of power. I've ruled for so long that I forgot what it was like to feel something real. Neil noticed the guards and nobles watching, but it didn't matter. You're different now, he said. I am, she answered. Because of you. Rowland stepped forward slowly, unsure if he should interrupt. My queen. The council requests your presence. Varela nodded without turning. Tell them I'll come shortly. But not before I say what I need to. The minister bowed and stepped away. Varela looked back at Neil. The council will not like this. Some think I've grown too soft, that my connection to you is dangerous. Then I can leave. Neil said, if it keeps you safe, no. Varela said quickly, you must stay. Not as a guest. Not as a prisoner. But as part of this. Life and Neil looked surprised. What do you mean? Varela took a breath. I mean I want you beside me. I don't care what the council says. I am the queen, and I choose who stands with me. He blinked. Are you asking me to stay as your advisor? She shook her head. No, as more than that. Neil didn't speak. I don't know what the future holds, Varela said. But I know this, when I thought I might die in battle. The only thing I saw in my mind was your face. Not the throne. Not the crown. Just you. The garden around them stood silent. Neil stepped forward. He looked into her eyes, the same eyes that once held fire and now held something deeper. I never imagined this, he said. Neither did I. But I want it. She smiled. For the first time in days, it reached her eyes. Then stay. Walk beside me. Let us build something different. I will. Varela lifted his hand and placed the ring back in it. Now it means something more. The guards slowly moved away, sensing the moment was not theirs. Later that day, the council gathered. Varela entered the chamber with Neil beside her. Whispers spread through the room. Some looked angry, others confused. But she didn't care. She stood tall, her voice calm. You all followed me into war. You trusted me to bring us victory. I ask for the same trust now. She looked toward Neil, then back to the council. I have chosen to keep him by my side, not because of duty, but because I believe we are stronger together. Rowland stood slowly. If that is your will, we will follow. And so they did. Months passed. Neil learned more about the stars, about her people, about her life together. They changed things. Varela ruled not just with strength, but with warmth. The people saw it. The empire felt it dot, and sometimes, in the quiet garden, they would sit on the crystal bench again. No words needed, just the soft wind and the memory of that first gaze, the gaze that changed everything.